The room was cold. The lights were bright white and too clean. Metal walls surrounded the human like a cage. He sat in the middle of the room, hands tied, back straight, and eyes calm. There were no signs of fear on his face. 3 alien guards stood near the door watching him closely. Their weapons were ready. They didn't trust him even though he was alone, without armor, without a weapon. Commander Velra entered the room. She was tall, with blue skin and sharp silver eyes. Her uniform was perfect, her steps quiet but full of power. She had seen many enemies in her life, rebels, pirates, traitors, but never a human. This was her first time standing in front of one, and something about him made her feel uneasy. She stopped a few steps in front of him and looked into his eyes. He looked back, silent, almost bored. His face had small cuts, probably from the crash. His name was Ethan Graves, a human soldier captured 2 days ago during a failed human mission in Sector 9. "You are very calm for someone in your position," Velra said. Her voice was smooth, controlled. Ethan gave a small smile. "Should I be screaming?" Velra narrowed her eyes. "Most prisoners beg. Some cry. You just sit there." "Why?" Ethan tilted his head slightly. "Because I've seen worse." The guards shifted uncomfortably. One of them glanced at the commander. She noticed. She also felt the shift in the room. The air had changed. The human's voice was not loud, but the meaning behind his words hit hard. It wasn't pride. It wasn't arrogance. It was truth. "What do you mean, worse?" Velra asked. Ethan didn't answer right away. He looked up at the bright lights above him and then back at her. "You think space is dangerous," he said. "You think war is the worst thing that can happen. But where I come from, war is just another Tuesday." Velra crossed her arms. "We have read your files. Your planet is a death world, Earth. High gravity, harsh weather, dangerous life forms. Still, that doesn't explain this lack of fear." Ethan leaned forward slightly. The guards stepped closer, their weapons raised. Velra raised a hand, stopping them. She wanted to hear this. "You've read files," Ethan said. "But you didn't live it. You didn't run from wildfires that moved faster than the wind. You didn't survive floods that swallowed cities. You didn't grow up with the sound of sirens and the smell of smoke. We didn't just live on Earth, we fought it every day. We don't fear pain. We learned from it." Velra didn't say anything. For the first time in her career, she felt uncertain. This human was not lying. His eyes, his voice, they were too calm to be lies. "You think I'm alone?" Ethan continued. "But I'm not the strongest of my people. I'm just one of the many, and you captured me thinking I'd be your answer. But I'm just the question." Velra blinked. "What do you mean?" Ethan leaned back and smiled again, the same small, cold smile. "You asked why I'm not afraid. The real question is, why are you?" For a moment, the room went completely silent. Even the sound of the machines outside seemed to stop. The guards looked at each other. Velra's face tightened, but she didn't answer. She couldn't. The words had reached deeper than she expected. They made her remember something. An old rumor. A whisper shared between officers. That humans didn't break under pressure. They didn't run from fire. They walked through it. Velra turned without a word and walked out of the room. The door slid shut behind her. Ethan was left alone again, but he didn't mind. He closed his eyes, and a small breath escaped his lips. Not fear, not worry, just patience. Outside the room, Velra spoke to her second-in-command. "Increase guard detail. Don't let him speak to other prisoners, and keep him under watch at all times." The officer nodded, but he looked confused. "Commander, he's unarmed. We've scanned him. He's just human." Velra didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed on the glass window, watching the man inside the room. "No," she said quietly. "He's not just human." Inside the room, Ethan opened his eyes again. He stared at the camera in the corner. He knew they were watching, and he knew that somewhere deep in their minds a question had started growing. one that would not stop. What are humans really capable of? And why? Aren't they afraid? The silence in that room would echo far beyond the metal walls. The next day, the lights in the hallway outside the human cell were dim. Guards stood in pairs now, not one by one. They didn't say it out loud, but none of them wanted to be near the human alone. Something about his calm silence was more terrifying than a scream. Commander Velra watched him again through the glass. He hadn't moved much. He had slept on the cold floor without a blanket, without a complaint. His eyes were open now, staring ahead, not blinking much. He looked like he was waiting. She turned to her science officer, a pale yellow alien named Drawl. "Run the fear test, let's see if he's bluffing." Drawl nodded nervously and entered the room with two guards. The human looked at them but didn't speak. Drawl placed a small black box on the table. It lit up and showed fast images: fire, alien monsters, war zones, even scenes of death. The machine was built to measure fear. It watched the humans' eyes, heart rate, breath. Ethan looked at the screen. He didn't blink. His heart rate stayed the same. His breath never changed. Drawl swallowed. No response. No fear. The guards looked at each other. One of them whispered, "He's broken." But Ethan finally spoke, calm as ever. "I'm not broken, I'm built this way." Drawl asked, "How can you not be afraid of death?" Ethan shrugged. "Because I've seen it too many times. Friends dying, buildings falling, the sky burning. And yet, we survive. Every time." Velra entered the room. She stood across from him. "Is that how all humans are? Cold? Empty?" Ethan looked her in the eyes. "No. We feel more than most. But we don't let it stop us. You want to know why? Because on Earth, fear is normal. We just learn to walk with it." Velra sat across from him now. Her voice was lower. "Tell me about your planet." Ethan paused. "You call it a death world. And you're right. Our storms tear down cities. Our animals can kill with one bite. The ground shakes, the oceans rise. Fire comes without warning, but we don't run forever. We rebuild. We adapt. We fight back." He looked up at the camera, knowing others were watching. "Children on Earth learn to be strong early. Not because we want them to, but because they must. I saw my first firestorm when I was 6. I lost friends in a school collapse at 10. By 15, I had already pulled someone out of a flood." Velra frowned. "That's not childhood. That's war." Ethan nodded. "For you, maybe. For us, that's life." There was silence again. Drawl turned off the machine. He looked shaken. "Commander," he said quietly, "if they're all like this." Velra stopped him. She already understood. This human wasn't the strongest. He was just normal. That was the scary part. Later that day, a young alien guard named Surratt was assigned to food duty. He walked into the room with a tray, his hands shaking a little. The human took the food and nodded in thanks. "You're not what I expected," Surratt said softly. Ethan looked up. "What did you expect?" "I don't know," Surratt said. "A monster, a killer, not someone like this." Ethan took a bite, chewed slowly, then said, "You fear humans because we don't show fear back, but that's not strength, that's history, that's survival." Surratt sat on the floor across from him even though it was against the rules. "Do you think fear is a weakness?" Ethan shook his head. "No. Fear keeps you alive. But letting fear control you? That's weakness." Surratt nodded slowly. "I think I understand." Outside the room, Velra was watching again. She had seen the whole conversation. She didn't stop it. Part of her wanted to know more. Part of her wanted to believe there was more to humans than war. But another part was afraid. That night, Velra stood alone on the observation deck of the ship, staring at the stars. She thought about what the human had said, about Earth, about children learning to face fire and loss, She had always believed her species was strong, disciplined, brave, but compared to humans, they were comfortable, soft. She whispered to herself, "What kind of world makes people like him?" A voice behind her answered, making her jump. A world that never gave them a choice. It was Ethan. He was standing with 2 guards behind him, in chains, but still calm. He had been brought for another round of questions. But somehow, it felt like he was the one doing the asking. Velra didn't say anything, because deep down, she knew the galaxy was not ready for Earth, and it was definitely not ready for the people who called it home. The testing room was cold, just like every part of the alien ship. Bright lights hummed softly overhead. The human, Ethan, was sitting once again in the center, this time surrounded by machines. Strange wires were connected to his head and chest. A large screen blinked slowly behind him, showing his body signals, heart rate, brain activity, stress levels. Draal, the alien science officer, stood next to Commander Velra. He looked nervous. "We're starting the advanced fear test now," he said, tapping on his tablet. "No more pictures. We're going to use direct mental triggers, real memories, strong ones." Velra nodded once, but said nothing. Her silver eyes stayed fixed on Ethan. The human looked tired, but not afraid. He sat still, breathing slowly. Calm. Always calm. The test began. A soft sound filled the room. Then images flashed into Ethan's mind, memories pulled from his brain by alien tech. The system searched for pain, for fear, for trauma. It wanted to see what had scarred him, and what it found made Draal freeze. On the screen appeared a burning city. Buildings collapsed, screams echoed, fire filled the streets. A young boy, Ethan, was running through smoke, holding the hand of his younger sister. People were crying. Some didn't get up. The fire kept coming. The screen showed the boy hiding in a broken car, wrapping his arms around his sister, whispering something in her ear. The heart monitor beeped. Normal. No panic. No fear. Just memory. Velra's voice was quiet. "How old was he?" Draal answered, voice shaking. 9. The next memory appeared. Floodwaters rushing through a school. Children trapped on the roof. A teacher swept away by the waves. Ethan, now older, tied a rope around himself and jumped into the water. He swam to help. He pulled 2 kids out before passing out. Still, the heart monitor stayed steady. Velra whispered, "He should be broken." The final memory came. A battlefield. Human soldiers running through gunfire. Aliens shooting from above. Bodies fell. Smoke everywhere. And Ethan, now a soldier, stood in the middle, carrying a wounded friend over his shoulders, face covered in blood and dirt. Draal turned off the machine. The room was silent. Ethan opened his eyes slowly. "You done?" Velra stared at him. "You lived through all that, and you're still like this?" Ethan shrugged. "What choice did I have?" Draal stepped back. "I've tested over 50 species. None of them could survive these kinds of memories without severe trauma. But his mind, it's not damaged." Ethan looked at the screen. "We don't survive because we're stronger. We survive because we have to." Velra sat down across from him. Her tone had changed. It was no longer cold. It was curious. "Don't you feel anything? Fear, pain, sadness?" Ethan nodded. "I feel everything, but I don't run from it. I carry it. That's what we do." A quiet knock came at the door. One of the guards entered, face pale. "Commander, we have a problem." Velra stood. "What now?" The guard hesitated. "It's the other prisoners. They're refusing to stay near the human, even our own soldiers. They say he makes them feel like prey." Velra glanced at Ethan. He just smiled slightly, not surprised. "You think I did something to them?" he asked. Velra shook her head slowly. "No, you didn't have to." Later in the hallway, Drawl followed her. "Commander, I need to say something." Velra stopped walking. "I believe this human is not just strong," Drawl said. "He's evolved for survival in a way we don't understand. His brain chemistry is different. His body heals fast. His emotions are controlled. If Earth made him, we need to be very careful." Velra looked through the glass window at the human again. What if we already made a mistake? That evening, she returned to the cell. Ethan was awake, sitting on the floor, staring at nothing. She walked in slowly. No guards this time. She sat down across from him on the cold floor. For the first time, she spoke without power in her voice. "Just truth. Tell me. What does fear feel like to you?" Ethan looked at her, eyes clear. "Like an old friend." Velra blinked. "Friend?" He nodded. "Fear keeps us sharp. It warns us, helps us survive. But we don't obey it. We thank it, and then move forward." Velra felt cold inside. "And when you're not afraid?" Ethan leaned forward just a little. "That's when you should be." There was a long silence between them. Velra stood up and left the room quietly, her mind full of questions. She no longer wondered why the human had no fear now. She wondered what would happen to the galaxy if Earth ever got angry, and deep inside something told her they were running out of time. 2 days passed. The human, Ethan, was still in his cell, still calm, still watching. He spoke very little, now not because he was afraid, because he was waiting. Commander Velra was not sleeping well. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Earth, the burning cities, the floodwaters, the war, and one human walking through it all, never breaking. Something about Ethan had changed the way she saw everything. Reports were coming in from other ships. Whispers, mostly. Quiet talks between officers who didn't want to speak too loud. A few mentioned strange things. Humans escaping prisons, winning fights even when outnumbered, refusing to surrender. But the most worrying message was this: if you have captured a human, let them go. Quickly. Velra stared at the message for a long time. Let them go? Why? She turned to her second in command. What do they know that we don't? He looked nervous. I don't know, Commander, but I think something's coming. She didn't reply. She just looked toward the cell again. Inside, Ethan sat with his eyes closed, but his mind was fully awake. He knew the signs. Tension, fear, change in guard rotations, quiet movements in the halls, the way some aliens now refused to meet his eyes, the way others watched him from behind corners. They were afraid, and they didn't know why. Ethan did. It was almost time. Late that night, alarms started to ring. Red lights flashed across the ship. Velra rushed to the control room. Report. Unknown ship has entered orbit, the officer said. No ID signal. No response to hails. Human? Velra asked. No way to tell. But it's fast. Very fast. The unknown ship stopped just outside their range. No weapons fired. No threats. Just silence. Velra stared at the screen. The ship was dark, quiet, but she could feel it. It was watching them. Bring the human to the bridge, she said. The guards looked shocked. Commander, is that wise? She didn't blink. Do it. Ethan was brought in minutes later, still in cuffs. He looked at the screen, then back at Velra. You called me? Velra pointed to the ship on the screen. Friends of yours? Ethan stared for a moment, then smiled. Maybe. She stepped closer. Why are they here? Ethan shrugged. You took one of us. Sometimes we come back. The room fell silent. One of the officers whispered, You think they're here to rescue him? Velra thought for a moment, then spoke softly. No, not rescue. Warning. Ethan's eyes met hers. You're starting to understand. She walked closer to him. Tell me the truth. What happens if we don't let you go? Ethan looked around the bridge slowly, then said one word. Examples. Velra frowned. What does that mean? He stepped forward. The guards pointed weapons at him, but Velra raised her hand. Let him speak. Ethan stood tall, even in chains. You've taken other species before. You've broken them, studied them, made them afraid. It worked because they believed you were stronger. He looked toward the window, toward the silent ship outside. But with humans, you didn't take one of us. You invited the rest. Velra's breath caught. They'll attack? Ethan shook his head. No, that's not our way. Not first. First we give a chance. We ask. He looked at her again, calm as always. But if the answer is no? He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Velra turned to the screen. The silent ship outside hadn't moved. It didn't need to. It was just waiting. Open a channel, she said. The officer hesitated, then nodded. Channel open. Velra stood tall. This is Commander Velra of the Azeran Empire. We are holding a human named Ethan Graves. If you wish to speak... A voice cut her off. Cold, direct, human. We're not here to talk. We're here to bring him home. Then silence again. Ethan smiled softly. Velra turned to him. Why didn't they say more? He looked at her and said quietly, because we only speak softly once. Outside, the silent ship began to move. Not forward, not backward, just into position. Velra's heart pounded. Inside, the tension grew thick. No weapons fired, no soldiers sent, just that one quiet voice. Bring him home. And now, it was their move. The galaxy always feared war. But humans, they feared silence. Because silence meant a decision had already been made. The ship was quiet. Too quiet. Commander Velra stood on the bridge, staring at the screen. The human ship outside had not moved since the last message. No demands, no threats, just those 3 words. Bring him home. Inside the room, no one spoke. The officers, the guards, even the machines seemed to wait. Everyone could feel the pressure in the air, like a storm waiting just beyond the stars. Velra turned to Ethan, still standing in cuffs. He was calm, as always. But there was something else now. A quiet strength. He wasn't scared. He wasn't even angry. He was ready. She stepped closer. If we give you back, will they leave? Ethan met her eyes. If you give me back because you understand? Yes. If you do it out of fear? Maybe not. What does that mean? She asked. Ethan sighed. Humans don't just fight enemies, we fight messages. If you show weakness now just to escape, they'll think you're hiding something. But if you let me go with honor, they'll respect that. Velra's voice dropped to a whisper. And if we don't let you go at all? He didn't answer, because the answer was already outside. One of the officers stood. Commander, the human ship just scanned us. Shields up, someone shouted. No, Velra said quickly. Not yet. Everyone looked at her. She stepped forward. This isn't a warship. It's a message ship. Ethan nodded. Now you see. Velra took a deep breath. What do they want from us? Respect, Ethan said. And one of their own back. The officer looked up from the panel. They're powering something. It's not a weapon. What is it? Velra asked. The officer stared in confusion. It's a data transmission. They're sending us something. The screen blinked. Then it lit up. Video. Velra leaned in to watch. It showed images from Earth, a planet full of life, but also full of danger. Storms ripping through cities, children digging through rubble, helping injured parents, firefighters running toward burning buildings, soldiers in muddy uniforms pulling each other out of wreckage. Then, silence. The video changed. Now it showed humans standing before other alien species. Not fighting, not yelling, just staring. calm, silent, and in every clip, the aliens backed down first. Velra whispered, "They don't show power through violence." Ethan finished the thought. "We show power through patience." The screen showed one last image. A message in simple galactic common. "This is your chance. Do not waste it." Then the screen went dark. Velra stood frozen. "This isn't war." "No," Ethan said softly. "This is a lesson." She looked at him. "What are they trying to teach?" He stepped forward, and the guards stepped back without thinking. That humans don't bluff, and that when we come in silence, we're not asking twice. For a long time, no one spoke. Then Velra made a choice. She turned to her guards. "Remove his cuffs." "Commander?" One started to protest. "That's an order." The cuffs clicked open. Ethan stretched his arms and nodded once in thanks. Velra stepped forward. "We will take you to the hangar. You'll return to your people." Ethan paused. "Not until I say one last thing." She waited. He looked at every face in the room. "You think fear is the weapon, but fear is just the fire. What matters is what walks through it." Then he walked toward the door. No one stopped him. In the hangar, a small human shuttle had docked silently. It opened without sound. A human soldier stepped out, face hidden under a black helmet. Ethan walked toward him. Velra followed a few steps behind. The human soldier spoke in a flat voice. "Are you safe?" Ethan nodded. "Yes." The soldier turned to Velra. "You chose well." Then they left. No threats. No war, just silence. As the shuttle left and rejoined the large ship, the alien crew watched in complete silence. Then, just like that, the human vessel disappeared into jump space. Gone. Velra stood alone now in the hangar. She whispered to herself, "We feared them for the wrong reasons," because now she understood. Humans didn't win by shouting, they won by waiting, and when they moved like storms. Quiet, unstoppable. The human ship was gone. But the silence it left behind still echoed through the halls of the alien vessel. Commander Velra sat in her quarters, eyes fixed on the screen in front of her. She kept replaying the message, the one the humans had sent before leaving. Those images of Earth, of storms, wars, children surviving the impossible. They haunted her. She had spent years believing her empire was strong, in control, feared. But now she knew the truth. Fear wasn't strength. Survival was. And humans had mastered it. The door beeped. Her second-in-command, Ralcon, entered quietly. "Commander, we just received a report." She turned. "From where?" "Sector 9, another research station." Velra raised an eyebrow. "Another attack?" He hesitated. "No. No attack. They released their human prisoner." Her eyes narrowed. "Voluntarily?" He nodded. "Same reason, same silence. Same kind of ship showed up, didn't fire, just waited." Velra stood slowly. "So it's not just us." "No, Commander, it's spreading. Word is moving fast. Everyone who captured a human is now trying to return them." Quietly, she looked out the window at the stars. "And the humans say nothing." Ralcon lowered his voice. "Some of our people think the silence is worse than war." She didn't disagree. For the next few days, Velra tried to return to normal work. Meetings, reports, patrols. But nothing felt normal. Not after Ethan. Her mind kept returning to the way he spoke. Calm, cold, honest. He didn't try to scare them. That's what made it scary. Then another message arrived. This one wasn't from the humans. It was from an old rival empire, the Trailan Dominion. The message was simple. "You let the human go. Now you look weak." Velra stared at the words. The Trailans were watching, waiting for an excuse. And now they thought her empire had bent the knee to a single prisoner. Her officers met in private. Some wanted to respond. Some wanted to threaten the humans, show power again. Others wanted peace. But Velra stayed silent. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she watched what happened next. More empires began, releasing humans, one by one, quietly. Some even sent messages of apology. No answer ever came back, not from Earth. But something else started happening. Ships began vanishing, not destroyed, just gone. No signals, no remains. Whispers started again, of humans being taken, and then entire enemy ships disappearing hours later. No proof, no message, just nothing. Velra sat in her office late, at night studying the patterns. They weren't random. She was sure of it. Every vanishing ship had one thing in common. They had either harmed or captured a human. And now, someone was watching. A new fear began spreading across the stars. Not of human weapons, but of human silence. Velra received a private message from Ethan. Somehow it had passed through secure channels, undetected until it was already there. She opened it carefully. It was a video. Ethan stood on a quiet cliff, wind blowing through tall grass behind him. A simple human world. Peaceful. He looked into the camera. "I don't hate you," he said. "You were curious. So were we. But now you know." He walked slowly across the field. "You asked why I wasn't afraid." He stopped. Looked directly into the lens. "Because we've already seen the worst. We lived through it and we survived. That means there's nothing left to fear." The screen went dark, just like that. Velra leaned back in her chair. There were no threats in the message, no anger, only truth. She finally understood. Humans didn't just survive pain. They used it. They carried it with them like armor. And when they came back different. Not for revenge, but to make sure it never happened again. Her door beeped again. Ralcon entered, his face pale. "Commander, the Traylan fleet is preparing to attack Earth." Velra stood, up fast. "They're what?" "They're calling it a test. They want to see if the humans are really as strong as the rumors say." Velra's heart dropped. "Then they've made a mistake. What do we do?" She looked out the window, again. Earth was far away, quiet, peaceful, but peace wasn't weakness, not for humans. She whispered, "We watch, we remember, and when it's over, we warn the rest." Because now she knew, the question wasn't whether humans could fight. The question was, what happens when they decide not to hold back? The Traylan fleet never made it to Earth. They jumped into human space with firepower meant to scare an entire star system. Hundreds of warships, armed to the teeth, came to test the strength of a planet that had been too quiet for too long. They expected panic. They expected surrender. They expected fear. But what they found was silence. No warnings, no threats, no response. Their ships moved forward, scanners active. Still nothing, until their lead vessel crossed into Earth's defense zone. That's when everything changed. The stars themselves seemed to shift. Human ships, dark and cold, appeared from nowhere, silent hunters hiding in the black. One Traylan officer shouted, "Where did they come from?" No one answered. Human vessels didn't fire first. They just surrounded the fleet like wolves. Then, a message came. No video, no voice, just 4 simple words. "You shouldn't have come." And then, darkness. The lead Traylan ship went offline. No explosion, no crash, just gone. In the next 60 seconds, 9 more vanished the same way. No debris, no signals, one by one, clean, precise, perfect. The rest of the fleet tried to escape. Some fired their weapons. Others sent desperate messages. It didn't matter. None of them made it back. Back on Velra's ship, the reports came slowly. She read them in silence. No survivors. No evidence of how it happened. Just a missing fleet. and a warning carved into deep space frequencies. We don't chase war, but we remember who brings it. Her officers sat in stunned silence. One finally whispered, "It's true. Everything the human said. It was all true." Velra stood slowly. She looked out the main window toward the stars. "Not everything," she said quietly. "There's still one question left." They looked at her. She spoke the words again. The ones that started it all. Why wasn't the human afraid? And, now she answered herself, because fear is a prison, and they already broke free. Word spread across the galaxy like fire. Every empire, every species, every council, everyone heard what happened to the Trailans. And just like that, humans were no longer seen as weak, emotional creatures from a chaotic world. They were something else. Something older than war. Something deeper than hate. They were survivors of their own destruction. And they had walked through it stronger, sharper, silent. Now, no one dared touch a human. Not because humans would shout, but because they wouldn't. Months passed. Peace returned, but it was a different kind of peace. A nervous one. A quiet one. Ethan Graves sat beneath the stars on a small moon colony. He looked up at the sky, calm as ever. A young alien reporter approached him. She had come alone, without guards, without cameras, only questions. "Everyone's talking about you," she said. "You didn't start a war, you didn't even raise your voice. How did you do it?" Ethan smiled softly. "We didn't do anything. But they're terrified. Not of us," he said. "Of what we already lived through. Of what it made us." She hesitated. "Then tell me, why weren't you afraid that day in the interrogation room?" He turned and looked at her, gently but with eyes that held lifetimes. "Because fear comes when you think something worse might happen," he said. "But I've already seen the worst. We've buried cities, we've lost everything, and still here we are." He stood up slowly, brushing dust from his coat. "That's why I wasn't afraid." The reporter lowered her voice. "And your silence, was that a warning?" He shook his head. "No, that was mercy." She didn't speak again, and neither did he. Because sometimes, the most terrifying words are the ones never said. And across the stars, every species knew the truth now. When a human doesn't speak, the galaxy listens.